Halloween, right?
Halloween?
Should I wear a mask or something?
Oh, this is the Halloween episode?
Yeah.
You said you were going to wear your mask.
Alright, give me a second. Oh, it's up here somewhere. Here it is. I am Excalibur's replacement! Excalibur! Does that work?
Uh-huh.
Fine. You know, 12 years of talking about bad game shows, whether in written form or doing videos on YouTube. The funny thing is, you forget shows that existed that really are the worst. Like, I know there's some shows I shouldn't have covered, but there are some that I should have covered, and this is one of them. Remember the show Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire and how bad that was? Well, let's face it. Fox in 2001 tried to do it again, but instead of a multi-millionaire, a fake multi-millionaire I should say, we have a prince who is a multi-millionaire. And all the dribbling awfulness that comes with these Fox specials from the early 2000s. Just roll it, Mark Thompson.
Tonight, from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, for the first time ever, a bevy of beautiful women from across the United States have gathered to compete for the chance to live a Cinderella dream come true. On Who Wants to Be a Princess?
Starting in the year 1987 when it launched, Fox has always decided to push the envelope as to what would be considered decent and moral. When the reality game show boom hit in 2000 with CBS's Survivor, Fox tried to come up with their own after cutting their own millionaire variant and greed off at the knees. Their first big shot predates Survivor with Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire. While it got a lot of buzz and ratings, it was mired in so much controversy that it's probably going to require its own video. When the controversy died down from that, they retooled the idea into Who Wants to Be a Princess. Airing in September of 2001, 30 women vie for the affections of an unknown European prince. The way this is done is in the same vein as the Miss America beauty pageant. The big difference between that and this is that the contestants on the $1.98 beauty show were humiliated less than they were here. Now, before I get to my breakdown about this show, there is something that I found while doing the research for the show. IMDb actually had a blurb about this, and I just found it so funny that I needed to include it. And I'm reading it word from word that I copy-pasted from the site. Here it is. Several dozen visually pleasing and emotionally stunted young women vie for the chance to marry a wealthy and mysterious groom. They are made to answer a series of incrementally invasive and innuendo-oozing questions about love, men, dating, rumpy-pumpy, what have you, while intermittently parading around stage in a series of progressively smaller outfits. All of this while their individual beauty, poise, elegance, and overall worth as a human being is picked apart by a probably drunken and definitely over-pheromoned live audience. Do I need to say any more about this? I have to? Fine, even though that pretty much covered it up. Well, let's talk about the host. Now, the host for Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire was Jay Thomas. If you listen to his comedy or his radio show, he did kind of fit the grossness factor that show required. What did this show have?
And now your host, please welcome Pat Bullard.
event. Tonight, a real-life prince will give one woman the chance to live a Cinderella fairy tale come true.
My thoughts exactly. Yes, folks, back for his 5th appearance on Game Show Garbage, it's Pat Bullard. He sucked on Baloney, Hold Everything, the 2001 version of Card Sharks, and the 1998 reboot of Love Connection. Here, he's probably the least offensively bad thing about the show that isn't the set. Pat Bullard is his usual smarmy, unfunny self, which honestly makes him perfect for a beauty pageant nowadays. He does his best to keep things moving, although a good amount of his jokes do tend to fall flat for me. We'll talk about more about that later on. Another thing that we're going to talk about is the titular prince of the show. For most of the show, he is shown in silhouette or shown looking at the monitor in his royal box of sorts. Not much is known at the start, but Pat does reveal that he's from Italy and all of his royal standings are legitimate. At least the show did their homework on the prince as it was authenticated, unlike Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire, as he was found to not be a millionaire and only had a net worth of about $600,000. Now we got the particulars out of the way of the show. Now, let's bring out the beauties, as were the 30 women vying for, well, shall we say, a shot at the prince's royal box, if you understand. After Pat Bullard gets done with the intro, we see all 30 women coming out in classic beauty pageant fashions with dresses that look about as elegant as the wallpaper selections at the local Joann Fabrics. After they come out with an awkward throw to commercial break, they all introduce themselves to the public by saying who they are and what do they do. Like most of these style of intros you see in most pageants, they range from being decent to be incredibly cringeworthy, with some not being able to get out a complete sentence without screwing it up.
Presenting Michelle Yarbrough.
Hello, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm in account management and advertising.
I'll give a lot of credit to the casting directors of this show. They didn't go out and get a bunch of people who were completely desperate. They got people with actual goals and actual talent. Most of the people who said they were studying law would become lawyers, and successful ones at that. There's one thing that did stick out to me, and that's the arm placement of a lot of the ladies. It's like they got a case of Mr. Burns-itis where their arms are in a weird location. Maybe it's because I'm not an expert on fashion or beauty pageants, but it just struck me as odd. Anyway, after all of this, the prince selects the 10 ladies he fancies the most, and they move on to the next round. Also of note is the person who brings the envelope to Pat. Oddly enough, he is dressed the part of a beauty pageant host, while Pat looks like he just grabbed one of his old suits from when he was doing Card Sharks. And now it's time for the question and answer portion of the show, folks. Let's hope we get a lot of interesting facts that we didn't get in the first half hour of this show. The Q&A segment has the 10 women in more normal-looking outfits. In order to not give away the ghost yet, the prince has instructed Pat to ask the questions about royalty and other stuff he says that most men would want to know about. So essentially, it's going to be about sex and whatnot. How do the ladies get selected to answer the questions? By a light show a la Greed's Terminator. This is supposed to be a random draw, but I kinda doubt that, as the first lady chosen previously gets asked the first set of questions. The setup is that Pat asks question, lady answers, Pat tells awful joke. Some jokes worse than others.
Where's the most provocative place you've shared an intimate moment?
Wow. I guess the only thing to do here is just to be totally honest. Let's see. There was a boat show, and I was in a parked boat.
Really? An indoor
I'm not
building.
saying what provocative moment it was. It was just, somewhat
Yeah.
sexy.
I gotta get a boat.
Why do I get this?
After the questions are asked of one lady, the audience scores the lady on a scale of 1 to 10 in beauty, poise, and personality. I guess these are to help the prince pick the best lady that the commoners would approve of. As a viewer, I'm left bored. This segment lasts 30 minutes without commercials. It was painfully long. I don't mean so many pregnant pauses like you see on Identity or Deal or No Deal long, but the tedium that everything has made my reaction to the show go from mild indifference to just excruciating horror. There are many things that make a show terrible, and tedious monotony is one of them. When it comes to this question and answer segment, you could have cut 10 minutes from this segment alone and felt like you didn't lose anything. And during those minutes, that made me realize that after 5 inductions, I kind of feel sorry for Pat Bullard. I mean, he has the ability to be a good host, and aside from Baloney's format, the rest of his formats sucked. Makes me feel sorry for the guy. Next up is the European Fashion Show round. This time, the 10 semi-finalists are wearing cocktail dresses while posing like they're runway models. Also on the sidebar is some of the ladies' hobbies, likes, and dislikes. I'm thinking to myself, seeing this, wouldn't it be better to have those show up when the ladies are introducing themselves? I feel that would give the audience at home more of a reason to root for the ladies. Sticking it here just doesn't feel right. When it comes to posing, a lot of them feel like they're acting like models. It feels like when you're 8 or 9 years old and you're trying on your mom's clothes and parading down the hall to the annoyance of everybody in your family. Next, the ladies come out 2 at a time and model swimsuits by a company I'm sure doesn't exist anymore. It was even more awkward than the last go-round with the cocktail dresses. To be even more blunt, the ladies kind of look better in the cocktail dresses than the swimwear. It gets more to the imagination than just showing it off and looking like mannequins. After this, the prince's helper, i.e. Benjamin, brings out the envelope and we get his top 5. It also highlights the scores of the audience mean absolutely nothing. One contestant averaged an 8.8, the highest score in the entire field, and she doesn't make it through. I guess we could call her the pre-2018 Washington Capitals. All of the stats, all of the wins, and you can't make it past the second round. During the break, the 5 finalists are giving gorgeous makeovers. Although, to be honest, those on what not to wear were better. They're escorted out by the true star of the show, Benjamin, and the worst moment of the show start. After they come out, they then decide to shed all amount of dignity and self-respect and give the teary-eyed, desperate plea for the prince to make their dreams come true. Here's the montage.
It's just been such an amazing experience for all the girls here, and I would love, and it would be an honor to meet you and to get to know your life as a royal and also as a person. And it's just been an amazing experience, and all these girls have dreamed of being, you know, like Cinderella fairy tales, and it's just nice that we've had a chance
going on this date with you, going to your country, meeting your family and your friends, and really truly getting to know you would be the ultimate romantic as well as meaningful experience for me.
I would really love the chance to get to know you a little bit better. I feel like you've learned about us and seen us walk around and everything.
This is definitely a dream come true, and I would love to spend an enchanted evening with you, and love to spend an evening in your home country and have a wonderful time.
I feel as if I'm dreaming, and I don't want to wake up.
Do I really need to explain why this is awful?
Yep.
Okay, I guess it's my job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I got a comparison which I can make. There was an infamous segment on an episode of WWF Raw in like February and March of 2001 where Vince McMahon had Trish Stratus, you know, stripped down to her bra and panties and pretty much begged to have her back in his good graces by doing all these degrading things, you know, like barking like a dog and all that stuff. That's pretty much the closest comparison that I've seen in my history of watching, you know, stuff, you know, shows on TV, movies, to the cringe factor of this. This is just horrible, and thankfully we're at the end. I think I need to have a bath of boiling bleach to get myself clean after this show. At long last, we get to see who the prince really is. After a hype package of who he is, what he is, including a couple beautiful buildings that probably have been featured in travelogue shows. Also a blurb about him being the grandson of Guillermo Marconi, i.e. the person who invented the radio. We see him and he looks... he isn't completely Prince Charming, but more like Prince Amiable. If he didn't say he was a prince, he'd look like the guy you'd find sitting next to you at a Buffalo Wild Wings while watching the games on Sunday. But the prince might actually be the savior of the show, because his time on screen is short and doesn't drag his selection. He takes the selection item, which is a gorgeous $40,000 diamond necklace, and puts it on the first woman in line. I'm not shocked that he picked the good-looking woman with the biggest pair of breasts. It's what most men would do in this situation, if it is more likely going to be a one-off thing. Afterwards, the gander looks like to be a blue Bentley and drive off to live happily ever after for about 3 weeks. And that was Who Wants to Be a Princess. I know I said this was supposed to be the scariest induction of all time, but like many bad horror movies, I'm left asking the question, why? Why did this need to be a thing? What was the aim of the show? What was the purpose of the show? Why degrade all of these women just for a one-off and be largely forgotten to the sands of time, whereas Who Wants to Marry a Multimillionaire still lives to this day in infamy? It's the worst type of show like this, where it's gross, but not gross enough to be memorable. Thus, it makes it worse. It failed at pretty much everything it set out to do. And like most minor and major horror movies of the day, this video probably underwhelmed, underdeveloped, and let's just be honest, it's par for the course for most horror movies, really. Well, speaking of par for the course, that's going to do it for this edition of Game Show Garbage. I thank everybody for watching. If you liked what you see, leave a comment below. You know, request stuff that we'll want to do for future videos here on this channel, whether it be Game Show Garbage, Home Game, future countdown videos. We might start doing those again, because I think I could get some interesting top 5s out to you. Also, if you want to see all the videos out quicker, also you get to see them a day before they go public on YouTube, become a Patreon backer at patreon.com/GameShowGumbo. I'm Cindy Seidelman. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta put on this mask, and hopefully I could become a better announcer than D'Lo Brown on Impact Wrestling. Coming, Match Striker!